The title of this video is Why You're Feeling Stuck, Trapped, or Lost. Almost everyone I've ever spoken to, whether in a casual conversation or a soul-searching session, has shared some quiet confession. I feel stuck. Maybe you've said it too. Maybe it's a persistent restlessness that follows you through your day. Maybe it feels like you're moving through life on autopilot. Maybe you work at accomplishing tasks but aren't fulfilled. Or maybe it's something deeper, a sense that you're missing something really important and vital. Maybe it's something that you just can't put your finger on. Some describe it as a feeling of being trapped, like being caught in an invisible web. Others have told me they feel kind of lost, in a fog of uncertainty, kind of like they're drifting off on a raft out at sea, unable to see what's ahead. And some say they feel like their life is going sideways. For others, there's kind of a gnawing sensation that something's out of alignment, that life isn't flowing as it should. Well, if any of these resonate with you, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not broken. The chances are good that you felt it too. Kind of a creeping sensation that something's off, that your life isn't quite working the way it should. And maybe you've even labeled yourself as different from all the other sheep in the herd. Always feeling different, misunderstood, or out of step with all the others. And you may have tried to ignore it or cover it up with maybe being busy or some self-help mantra. And yet deep down, you remain with the same feelings. This frustrating inertia can lead to despair. It whispers lies like, there's something wrong with you, or I must not be evolved enough. But what if that isn't true? What if there is a deeper, more empowering explanation behind the stuckness that nearly everyone experiences at some point? What you're experiencing may actually be part of a larger spiritual and evolutionary shift, one that is unfolding collectively and individually across the entire globe. You're not just stuck, you're being summoned, called to an initiation that could catapult you into a whole new dimension of purpose and freedom and power, like an inner power and empowerment. So what if being stuck isn't a failure, but it's actually a doorway? What if your discomfort is the first sign of awakening? What if that quiet internal pressure is the beginning of something sacred and transformative? Well, let's begin with a fundamental question. What is really behind that stuck feeling? Where do these feelings come from? Most people never pause to consider this. We tend to automatically react emotionally, never wondering where the feelings came from. But here's a deeper truth. Behind every emotion, every single one, there is a belief triggering it. And most of those beliefs are not even conscious. Let that sink in. You could be feeling trapped, limited, disheartened, not because of your current circumstances, but because of hidden, unconscious beliefs you absorbed years ago, or maybe even lifetimes ago. It's as if there's some kind of an invisible force running your life. Have you ever been emotionally triggered in a way that seemed completely out of proportion to the situation? Maybe somebody made a comment that sent you spiraling into anger or self-doubt. You may have thought, whoa, why am I acting like this? What's wrong with me? Where did that come from? This is the invisible force at work, which is your subconscious belief system. And are you aware that you have subconscious beliefs? that may be the complete opposite of what you consciously believe or want? You likely don't even know what these subconscious beliefs are, even though you're affected by them every day. These beliefs are like programs in a computer, and they operate behind the scenes, shaping your conclusions, your perceptions, your beliefs, your reaction, and your decisions. So you may well think you're in charge of your life. It probably feels that way. But often, you're more like a puppet on invisible strings, pulled by forces that you didn't even realize are there. You see, you attract what you believe, even if you're not aware of it. Here is a powerful and somewhat unsettling truth. Your subconscious beliefs determine what you create and attract in your life, not your conscious desires, not your affirmations or your vision board, but the deeply embedded programs in your subconscious mind. Well, let's look at an example. A man I once worked with was a sales rep for a large company. He performed very well in a small region, so the company transferred him to a high potential area. But a year later, his performance hadn't improved at all. The question was, why? And that's the question he came to me with. During our sessions, we uncovered that he was unconsciously limiting his income to match his father's, an amount that was etched into his subconscious as normal or acceptable. And now, once we identified it, and then we removed it, his success in his new area skyrocketed. This kind of subconscious loyalty to family beliefs, or even cultural expectations, or early childhood conditioning, is incredibly common. In fact, it is so pervasive, I included the affirmation, "It is good to be more successful than mom and dad," in many of my audio programs. That one simple phrase has freed countless people from subconscious shackles they didn't even know they had. Now, why don't we learn this in school? Isn't it strange that we spend years in school learning algebra and grammar, but we're never taught the most important curriculum of all, how our beliefs shape our emotions, our actions, our success, our relationships, and all the rest of our lives. No one tells us that we're born in a belief matrix, shaped by past experiences in childhood, mostly shaped by programming from adult and unresolved karma from other lives. So as a result, we're left to navigate life confused, reactive, and often we blame ourselves for outcomes that we don't even understand. Here you are, trapped on this planet, feeling stuck, maybe trapped, and wondering how you got here and why your life has turned out the way it has, rarely thinking about the causes or where they came from. So, how did you get here? Stuck, uncertain, trapped, imprisoned, lost, and searching. It all began long ago. Your current reality is shaped by conclusions you formed from your earliest experiences. As a child, your survival depended on pleasing your caregivers, fitting into your environment, and absorbing the emotional climate of your home. Your life circumstances are the result of beliefs and programs that you set in motion in your childhood, and maybe even in other lifetimes. And this is the big reason why you don't consciously remember them or know what they are. It is also a major reason why discovering them and clearing or changing them is such a challenge. Every experience, whether it's joyful or painful, led to a conclusion. And those conclusions then solidified into beliefs. Over time, those beliefs grouped together, and they became systems of perception. These belief systems still continue to influence your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors today, unless you consciously dismantle them. Your many beliefs are stored in your unconscious warehouse. I refer to this as your belief universe. In Eastern philosophy, they call it your causal body, because the underlying causes affecting you are stored there. So, you have a causal body. Did you know you have a causal body? Do you know what it is? Your causal body holds all the patterns you have believed and all of your reactions that created either positive or negative karma that in turn work like programs to bring you along with them, even from other lifetimes. Your beliefs are actually programs, and they run your life. But it's not your conscious beliefs that are doing that. In spiritual traditions, this repository of beliefs is called the causal body. This is the layer of your being where karmic imprint and reactions and programs and wants and needs and desires are all stored across all your lifetimes. Your causal body governs or influences everything in your life. It's the archive of your soul's journey. And until you access and clear it, you may well continue to repeat patterns that feel fated, frustrating, inexplicable. You're defined by your beliefs because you identify with them and you think they're you. And yet something inside you says, this can't be true. As these beliefs accumulate over lifetimes, your ego, your psychological survival mechanism, grows stronger. It develops strategies to avoid pain and gain more control. It's driven to be safe. The ego personality is not bad. It's just trying to protect you. But it does so from a place of fear and separation, often keeping you locked in the same patterns that originally wounded you. So the ego says, control more, acquire more, be more successful, get more love, have more money, be more perfect. And while there's nothing wrong with any of these things, no matter how much you achieve or gain, you'll still feel something's missing. Each lifetime left you with feelings of being frustrated, unresolved, incomplete. So you were unconsciously pulled back into the next life to try to fix everything and to clean up unfinished karma that you set in motion in your previous lives. And on your story goes. Why? Why is this? Simple. Because you're not living from your soul. You're living from your ego personality and all of its programming stored in your causal body. Over time, the distractions and demands of life drowned out your soul's voice. You forgot who you truly are. You forgot you have a soul. In fact, you forgot you are a soul, having a temporary human experience. You even forgot why you were born. Your life became focused on surviving, coping, satisfying unconscious drives and needs and fears. And you got caught in a loop, trying to fit, trying to acquire, trying to gain, trying to prove, all the while losing touch with your deepest soul essence. And so you feel stuck. But here's the good news. This is not the end of your story. The truth is, we're living in a time of rapid energetic and spiritual change. The age of Aquarius is not just an astrological idea. It symbolizes a planetary shift toward higher consciousness, unity, authentic expression, when the soul is the predominant motivating force through everyone's life. This age brings in frequencies that are shaking loose the old structures and limiting belief systems that we've acquired and inherited. If you're feeling stuck, trapped, confused, or disoriented, you may actually be right on schedule. We're living in an extraordinary time, and the veil between worlds is thinner. The ancient wisdom for initiates in mystery schools is now available to everyone, including you. You know, your ancestors would have given anything to access the teachings, the tools, and the technologies that exist today. And yet, despite this abundance, true transformation remains slow unless you make a conscious choice to take charge of it and apply practices on a daily basis to heal, to clear, to evolve. There is no question we are living in an age with more access to spiritual information and theories than ever in our recorded history. And this alone has caused many people to say they're awakening. And some, maybe many, believe they are fully awakened and enlightened. So you are not broken. You're in transition. And that transition follows an ancient and a sacred process. I've always equated the term spiritual awakening and ascension with the term enlightenment. The terms are really interrelated. Everyone is evolving spiritually, whether they're consciously aware of it or not. And as you look around, you may not recognize this process because there is a full range of consciousness levels from the most base all the way up to those who are truly enlightened. And when we talk about ascension or enlightenment, we need to think of it as an ongoing process of shedding lower levels of belief and reaction to higher, more peaceful, more loving consciousness levels. Along the journey, there are peaks and valleys as the old ways rise to be addressed and released. And that sometimes brings with it challenges and dark periods. Sometimes people refer to this as the dark night of the soul. The process of ascension usually takes place in at least 5 major phases. The first being the beginning of awakening. So this is a natural process, and it occurs when you start to realize there's something missing in your spiritual knowledge and experience. Your mind begins to open to other possibilities than what you were previously aware of. And you find it interesting enough that you begin searching for more. This is the searching phase, and the acceptance of realities beyond your physical experiences or what you grew up being taught. All sorts of questions arise in your mind, and you seek answers through books and teachers or organizations. And it's really a pretty exciting phase because there's so many new discoveries. And after going through that for a while, and that could be months or even years, you come to the next phase. This is the aha phase, when you have insights and realizations. Sometimes you might even have mystical and psychic experiences. And so after gathering a treasury of spiritual knowledge and understanding, you settle into some practices that bring you inspiration and a sense of evolving your consciousness to a deeper level than just the accumulation of more knowledge. So you're likely to have found a path that answers many of your questions, and you find, yes, your life is becoming more peaceful and fulfilled. You become more aware of the illusions that trapped you in illusory beliefs, false beliefs. And so you start applying practices and tools that move you along your path of spiritual evolution. Your practices would include some forms of meditation, no doubt. And there is a whole variety of other techniques as well. They all lead you deeper into self-discoveries. And as a result, you find your beliefs and reactions to the world around you are becoming more peaceful and loving and acceptance. This stage creates further excitement. You want to continue searching. You want to continue discovering. You know there's more, and you want to find out what it is. Now, when you reach the third phase, the ego gives way to the soul. The third major shift in consciousness as you evolve opens you to deeper realizations of the nature of whom and what you are. You find that you have different interests from what you had before. Sometimes you might feel like you're losing passion for things that were important to you previously. The big realization at this level is that your evolution is tied to the degree that you are letting go of your past beliefs, the causes of pain and struggle that have all caused you to suffer for lifetimes. You become aware of fear-based ego aspects of your personality, and you begin to apply methods of deconstructing them. This is the time when you explore healing and clearing modalities. You may want to share what you're discovering with those close to you, and maybe even take it further to teach others what you're learning. You explore deeper realms of consciousness, and you disengage from negative aspects of the ego which previously controlled your thinking and emotional reaction. In place of the ego, your soul rises more to the surface of your everyday experiences, and it brings all the refined characteristics of higher levels of love, fulfillment, happiness, peacefulness, kindness, generosity. And this process is called the soul merge process. This is where the soul merges and integrates into all of your thoughts, all of your beliefs, all of your feelings, all of your reactions, and it replaces all the lower thoughts and feelings with light-filled, loving harmony. As you merge more with your soul, your life flows with more synchronicity, and you have greater peace. You are likely to also recognize you have a higher purpose than just physical pursuits. You feel guided into new connections with people and groups. I've recorded a program that's titled Soul Moon that can help you with this process. And then you come to the fourth phase. This is when you deepen all the spiritual realization, deeper realizations of oneness, love, and beauty. As you let go and you clear away the lower energies of the ego, which includes the suffering from fear and anger, abandonment, arrogance, anxiety, hopelessness, guilt, you find a deeper nature of your soul emerging. It begins to take over more of your personality and everyday experiences. And at this level, you integrate a deeper realization of the nature of reality and your connection with it. There can be flash realizations of oneness, beauty, radiant love, feeling inspired. Your intuitive self becomes more apparent, and you may have some psychic abilities emerge. Virtuous qualities become a natural part of who you are without having to try or even work at it. You naturally become kinder, more patient, more loving, and you have more compassion. You find yourself automatically being more present, living in the now, all the time automatically. So you don't have to struggle to be in the now anymore, because your soul is always in the now. So you find yourself experiencing these elevated levels of being, and you'll find that they last longer and longer as the months go by. When you enter the fifth phase, there is an enlightenment shift. When higher levels of enlightenment are attained, the mind becomes perpetually quiet and the peace deepens. You're able to operate in your day-to-day life, but you have a sustained awareness of the oneness with all and the nature of all that is observed and perceived as being projections on a field of awareness. The negative ego diminishes and eventually disappears, although your individuality sustains your everyday experiences. Your ascension is the evolution of your consciousness to higher realizations. The clearer you become, the more love and light you naturally radiate. The question awaiting is, how do you progress through these phases? Some of this happens naturally and spontaneously, but you can also move forward quicker with spiritual practices. If you're wondering where to begin by exploring the teachings I've shared freely for 50 years through videos on YouTube. There are many free resources on my website, jonathanparker.org. For me, these phases were actually remembering much more than they were discovering or coming out of research. I have memories of many past lives and very dedicated spiritual practices. And so that's mostly what I've recorded in a lot of my audio programs. Because in the audio program, I can guide you through these processes. And it's a lot easier than trying to get it from a book. And most books out there don't explain how to do it anyway. They just tell you what, but not how. So I've put as much as I could in books. I've been putting as much as I can in audio programs and also on as many videos as I can put up on YouTube. I've always thought it was more important to provide methods to evolve than simply describe about spiritual topics or tell you about what somebody else experienced and how there's all these masters living over on the other side of the world, but not ever explaining exactly what they did or how they did it. So my books and my audio programs are experiential. If you dive into my book, The Soul Solution, for instance, there are a lot of guided meditations in the book, and I've even recorded some of them on my website. And then if you want to go deeper, the Handbook for Enlightenment and Ascension. It explores all these stages of awakening in much more detail and gives you practices that you can be doing day to day that lead to lasting shifts in consciousness. For over 50 years, I've been walking this path full-time, refining methods that work, so you don't have to keep wondering or wandering and confused. I've discovered some amazing techniques that you won't find anywhere else because I designed them and I honed them by teaching them in classes with hundreds of students, and I've learned from those students. I've done more than 50,000 sessions with people. I've learned so much from doing all of that. And that's enabled me to master a lot of what I'm offering you now. So start with my many videos on YouTube and the free resources on my website, because when you do, you won't just stop feeling stuck. You'll finally start living the life your soul came here to live. Until next time now, keep being curious and bringing in the light.